burden of facing my family after being the anointed one, the chosen one, taught by the scholars. The Prophet of God, Zechariah, was my tutor. I was given the privileges that weren't allocated and allotted to other women in Jewish society at my time. How can I face people carrying a child no one will understand? Ya laytani mit. I wish I had lost my life long before having to deal with any of these circumstances and any of these problems. And she began to deliver her child. And it was said to her by the angels, God has caused a spring, Sariya, a little spring of water, to gush from under your feet. وَهُزِّي إِلَيْكِ بِجِذْعِ النَّخْلِ. Touch this pole of the date tree, shake it, this date tree, shake this palm tree. Dates will fall on you to nurture you, sustain you. And head out. Jazakallah khair. And head out back to your people. And if any of them question you, just point to your child. And she goes back to her people in Jerusalem, her family. قَالُوا يَا مَرْيَمُ لَقَدْ جِئْتِ شَيْئًا فَرِيًّا. You have brought a horrendous sin and error, a calamity upon yourself and your family. يَا أُخْتَ هَارُونَ مَا كَانَ أَبُوكِ امْرَأَ سَوْءٍ وَمَا كَانَتْ أُمُّكِ بَغِيًّا. Your father was a good man, your mother was a good man. How could you have sinned in this fashion, coming with this audacity to Bayt al-Maqdis, to this sanctified holy city, carrying an illegitimate child? فَأَشَارَتْ إِلَيْهِ. She points to her son, Isa, Jesus. قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ. One of the first miracles of him, other than the Immaculate Conception, is his defense of his mother in that very early moments of his life. A few days after he's born, while still being held, still being carried, still being suckled, having no power or authority unto himself, except the ability to speak given to him by God. قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ. I am a worshipping servant of God. آتاني الكتاب. I have full knowledge of your book. I have full knowledge of your Torah. In fact, we're told in biblical stories as well as in Islamic narrations that Isa would teach the Torah to the rabbis and to the scholars at very early ages and stages of his life. آتاني الكتاب. He's given me knowledge of the book. وأوصاني بالصلاة والزكاة. And has made it incumbent upon me to be righteous and fulfilling to my prayers, and to be charitable with my wealth, وَبَرًّا بِوَالِدَتِي, and to be righteous in conduct of my mother, وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْنِي جَبَّارًا شَقِيًّا, and has not made me harsh or hard-hearted in dealing with anyone. ذَلِكَ عِيسَى ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ قَوْلُ الْحَقِّ. These are the words that Jesus spoke, words of truth. We fast forward into periods of the life of Jesus, and you find miraculous occurrences stated from our Quran. And I know as people of other faiths who may be in attendance with us, they'll resonate with you because you'll read pretty much many of the same type of illustrations and miracles and narrations in biblical texts. We're told in the 5th chapter of the Quran, Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ya Isa ibn Maryam udhkur ni'mati alayk. Jesus, son of Mary, recount my blessings and favors upon you. I have taught you the Torah, and I have given you the gospel to teach others. And I have given you al-hikmah. I've given you wisdom in judging disputes between people. وَإِذْ تَخْلُقُ مِنَ الطِّينِ كَهَيْئَةِ الطَّيْرِ. And I also bestowed upon you the divine ability to take dust, clay, water, mix them together, take teen, clay, wet dirt, fashion it in your hands, fashion it with your hands, blow on it after it takes the shape of a sculpted bird, blow on it with your breath, and it turns to life by the power of Allah. I gave you the power that when you come to Al-Akmah, a blind man who's been blind from birth, and you anoint him and touch him, and that's why Isa is called Al-Masih in Arabic, the anointed one, the one who touches people to cure them. Al-Masih, Isa ibn Maryam, yamsah alayhim. He would wipe his hands over the eye of the blind and they would see. وَتُخْرِجُ الْمَوْتَى بِإِذْنِي. And by my power and by my leave, by the power of God, you would come to the dead, to those who have passed away in life. to those who cease to exist, to those who have gone into the next life, to those who have been dead for days or years or whatever it may be, and you call them out of their grave and they respond and come back to life by the power of God. Powerful. Powerful messages that are found in chapters of the Quran that dwell and show us the famous and important personality of Isa, Jesus, peace and blessings be upon him, and other prophets. But one of the main shifts in theology between Islam and Christianity is the concept of the death of Isa. And the death of Jesus and the subsequent deification or the worship of Jesus by our Christian cousins in faith or brothers in faith is different to the theology of Muslims. How do we as Muslims look at the trials and the tribulations that Isa endured and faced? We find that in the 3rd chapter of the Quran, God mentions to us the adversities that Jesus faced in calling the Jewish people to faith, the Israelites to faith. إِذْ قَالَ عِيسَى, Jesus would proclaim unto the people, مَنْ أَنصَارِي إِلَى اللَّهِ, who will come and follow me to give victory and service to God? قَالَ الْحَوَارِيِّينَ, few disciples came to him and said, نَحْنُ أَنصَارُ اللَّهِ, we will come in your service, in the service of God. آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ, we have come to have faith in God. وَاشْهَدْ بِأَنَّنَا مُسْلِمُونَ, and we want you to bear witness for us in front of God that we are Muslim. And the word Muslim in this context means that we have self-surrendered ourselves to God. That's what a Muslim is, right? I surrender myself to the will of God. In that context, those are the words that they spoke to him, as is quoted to us in the Quran as Muslims, which is quite profound. آمَنَ الطَّائِفَةُ وَكَفَرَ الطَّائِفَةُ. A grouping of people believed in Jesus and another grouping disbelieved. And there became this sense of antagonism, that those who had devotion in the message of monotheism, in the tradition of Isa, in the tradition of Jesus, who came and said to Bani Israel, to the Israelites, جِئْتُكُمْ لِأُحِلَّ لَكُمْ بَعْضَ الَّذِي حُرِّمَ عَلَيْكُمْ. I know I have come to you and I have changed and made lawful certain things for you that were previously in the Torah made unlawful for you. And there was that shift between those who believed in the message of Isa and those who disbelieved. So there became plots and plans, as God quotes us in the Quran, يَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ. They sat plotting. How are we going to get rid of this individual who's leading people out of our places of worship, who's refusing to pay taxes, who's refusing to follow the system of the established way that we have set for everyone? They said, let's crucify him. Let's bring an end to his life. Let's order his death. Let's bring an end to it. And in our Islamic traditions, as is narrated by Imam al-Bayhaqi and others, and you can find it in the great tafsirs or the Agassiz translations or meanings of the Quran, that when they look at the verses in Surah An-Nisa, the 4th chapter in the Quran, near the end of the chapter, you find Allah says, وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَلَا صَلَبُوهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. They didn't kill him. They didn't crucify him. They didn't even put him on the cross. But it was made to appear so. As Muslims, we believe that Isa sat with his disciples, his Last Supper, and he said to them, look, there is going to be a test unto humanity of whether people will cling to an undying monotheistic faith, whether people will continue